So Learning Genie has been serving a few hundred school districts. A big focus about part of graduate. I'm the CEO and co-founder. And also we are very happy to invite Angela Leila, ASCD, renowned ASCD author and curriculum consultant, who are going to share with us about a very, I would say, a very important project she has been working on with quite a few school districts in New York, and that can hopefully that can share some like idea of how to the topic will be how to build curriculum embedded part of graduate assessments across K-12. Um, why not, Angela, you want to kick off? Yeah.
Sure. So, thank you. It's very nice to be here this afternoon with everyone. And we're going to jump right in there. I'm going to give you a little bit of background to set context for the work that I'll be sharing. I have been an educational consultant now for 25, 30 years, and in my work, I really have focused on the use of curriculum to address multiple outcomes of student learning, which has really evolved as a focus for all school districts, particularly those now in New York State that are working with a portrait of a graduate. And the work that I've done has, it started really with the book Ensuring High Quality Curriculum, because I felt that curriculum was a way for teachers really to examine deeply what it is they wanted their students to know and be able to do, and to create cohesive plans of action. That evolved into my second book, Making Curriculum Matter, which was we were taking a look at how curriculum was a really often underused tool for addressing multiple outcomes. And so what happened was that we were using a lot of terms in education to talk about what we wanted for students beyond just academics. And we needed to find a way to organize all these ideas so that curriculum could align with those valued outcomes. And what I did in identifying those valued outcomes is I would start by asking educators, what do you want for your students? And so even in your mind, as you're listening to me, just take a second and think about, what is it you really want for your students? And even if you have a minute, just to write a couple of your ideas, perhaps in the chat box. So what do you want for your students? What comes instantly into your mind? And while we're thinking about that, I'll tell you that some of the things that I've heard educators say over the years is we want students to be critical thinkers. We want them to be able to be curious or creative. We want students to be reflective. And so what I found is that educators are using all different kinds of terms to describe similar things. And now what we've seen in the last year is that New York State has adopted a portrait of a graduate. And so whatever terms came into your mind, if you look at the portrait of a graduate, you can start to classify them under these different attributes, right? So if we think about being reflective and future focused, we can think about, well, we really want students to be able to set goals and monitor their learning. So in thinking about what you want for your students, you might not have used the exact same terminology, but you could think about it in a way where you can see that, yeah, this is part of something bigger. And now New York State has defined it. So in doing so, moving from that curriculum, we know that curriculum is all about what do we want students to know and be able to do? How are we going to instruct them? But it also includes our assessment systems. So it's not only about, I'm going to teach to these goals, I'm going to support my students in achieving these goals. You have to ask the question, how am I going to know? How am I going to help them to monitor their growth in these areas? How am I going to provide them with feedback on these areas? And so nothing has changed in that curriculum includes the assessment, it's very much connected to the assessment system. And recently, New York State released this document, which is a performance assessment fact sheet, because performance assessments are key ways of measuring and monitoring students' progress to these valued outcomes. And now it brings to attention to educators, we have to take a look at our assessment systems. And how can these assessment systems include performance-based assessments that are necessary for measuring these attributes of the portrait of a graduate? This takes some reflection and some calibrating and some thinking about, well, if we want to use performance assessments, the first thing that we have to consider is what kinds of performance assessments are there? Educators will use names, common names like performance assessments to mean lots of different things. But as we integrate these performance assessments into our systems, we have to realize that there are multiple types of performance assessments, right? And so what you see here is a continuum. It was first shared through the fact sheet, but what I've done is I've added some examples that you might recognize from the kinds of assessments that New York State has used or that you may have used in your schools. And what we know is that sometimes performance assessments can be standalones, but the ones that give us the most information about student learning as they pertain to those valued outcomes that have been articulated through the portrait of a graduate is that we also need curriculum embedded performance assessments. The curriculum embedded performance assessments are ones that are both measurements of learning, but they also produce learning. They have certain attributes that we can look at to recognize them and to see how they fit within our instructional plans. So a curriculum embedded performance assessment has these distinguishing features. Curriculum embedded performance assessments give students an opportunity to research and engage in inquiry over time. They provide opportunities to make decisions about what they're learning, how, and how they're sharing their learning. Often with the curriculum embedded performance assessments, there's room for students to reach these essential goals for learning, but to do it in a way that really sparks their motivation and their interest because they can make those choices. Curriculum embedded performance assessments allow students to both work collaboratively and independently, and often for authentic audiences and purposes. And they have embedded formative assessment opportunities where students can reflect and revise their work. So a curriculum embedded performance assessment is a natural fit into our curriculum, and it's a natural fit for monitoring and measuring the attributes of the portrait of a graduate. So I want to give you an example of a curriculum embedded performance assessment that I created with a group of teachers here in New York State. This was created by a math department, and they did it in conjunction with their science department so that they could have students in their classroom working on a math topic using the science that they were learning in their science classrooms. So if you take a second, you can read through what the teachers came up with. And this is what I want to model for you as we talk a little bit more about those curriculum embedded performance assessments. Okay. So a curriculum embedded performance assessment is a valid and reliable form of assessment that complements your assessment system when these three things are kept in mind. First, it's not just a project that just you have students who are like, oh, this is really interesting. Yeah, it's interesting, it's motivating, but it's strongly aligned to the standards and the attributes of the portrait of a graduate. So we ensure that that alignment means that we are going to get information from the student work that tells us how they're progressing, as well as what they've learned and how they demonstrate those attributes. A curriculum embedded performance assessment is valid and reliable when it measures what's taught. That's where the curriculum embeddedness comes in. It's not about all of a sudden coming to the end of a unit and then not really having talked about the portrait of a graduate attributes. They're embedded throughout. And students are assessed using rubrics and checklists that are aligned with those portrait of a graduate attributes and standards. So to illustrate using the math example, here is the same task. Students are going to investigate frequency tables to gather real world data about body measurement and leptin levels. So you can see the alignment to both the standard for mathematics and the portrait of a graduate attribute, just simply in the language in which the task is described, right? They have to summarize, analyze, and interpret categorical and quantitative data. That's what the standards is asking them. So while there's flexibility, the alignment is strong, which makes it a very valid form of assessment because this is how we need to find out whether students know the content, if they're going to be academically prepared. But at the same time, we know that in measuring those attributes of the portrait of a graduate, we have to come up with a way that students are going to be able to show their thinking so that they can generate and refine creative solutions. We want to make sure that when we're using curriculum embedded performance assessments, that students, the measurement is really focusing on what's been taught. So it's not an isolated lesson. It's not for students to guess that they understand what a critical thinker is or for any assumptions. There has to be a focus within lessons where time is given to that attribute and it's pointed out to the student. We never want to assess things that have not been explicitly taught. So you can see here in this portrait of a graduate, which comes from the curriculum embedded performance assessment designed by the teachers using curriculum Genie, that portrait of a graduate attribute has been called out and it's been explained within the lesson. And finally, we want a tool that really the validity and reliability is enhanced because we want to not only measure what we've been taught, but we have a tool for measurement that will allow all teachers who are using this performance assessment to come together and have some kind of tool that's going to guide the consistency in their grading. So in this case, when the teachers created their performance assessment, you're able to see here how it's specifically designed to the standards and the attribute of the portrait of a graduate. So the teachers that I worked with felt much more comfortable now implementing this assessment because they could see the clear alignment between what they were assessing, what they were doing in the classroom, the standards and the attributes, and they would have a tool for grading. What Jean is going to now show us in a minute is how this is done through Curriculum Genie, and then I'm going to illustrate the same thing using another example from a school that I'm working in. Right. As you're listening to Jean walk through, I'm going to share with you a thinking routine. Just think about, how does this connect? How does this assessment designer connect to know what you already know about performance assessments and perhaps some of the things I shared? How does it extend your thinking? And what questions does it generate for you? And then this way, at the end, we'll go back to these questions, these connections, and we can share them. And I can also address them when I'm sharing the model with you. So Jean's going to walk you through this, and then I'll come back to me with the example.
Right. Thank you, Angela. So we will see something uh, more like how to get there. So we started with the curriculum, right? Core curriculum each school district are adopting. So how we are able to the question is more how we're able to create a performance assessment, both connecting standards and also the partial graduate, so that we are also able to support student support teacher to design, right, and also make it very clear to students how they are able to work on this assessment, which is also fun, but also we are able to showcase. We use AI to do some of the grading, right? So AI being a great supporter for teacher to understand the submission from student, which is in a form of multi-model, right? They can submit their own small paragraph answers, files, or pictures. So that's AI's ability to help, right, to assess on different level, right, from standards to the POG. So this is what we are able to show you right now as a 1 week performance assessment, and also how it's we use a 4 level rubric to document. Let's go to next slide.
Yeah.
So this is there's cartoon here, right? It says moving. So how we do that is following. So first of all, we read the unit, and then teachers are able to use a guide in the system to design. Right. So first of all, select more like identify the core partial graduate that they feel like very well will be represented in this task in the series of 5 day, 1 week long task. And also the AI, this model also AI tool to read, right? Read the whole unit, right? And build on teachers' design of the week-long task. So what does it do is trying to understand standard, trying to understand the partial graduate, and create a specific tasks, list of tasks that so that will be able to help students to showcase their work. So let's look at that again. So here is a yes, able to see the core standards and select a partial graduate. They also have a template of how to develop this 5 day, right, 5 activity standards. No, sorry, tasks. Okay, so
Yeah.
with give very clear instructions. So also teachers are able to be editing, right? So small AI is helping heavy lifting 80% of the work, but teachers are able to continue to define that, finalize. Okay, let's go to the next slide.
Hmm.
Um, so this is more like how eventually they are able to see a stage by stage entries. Um, so this is more like we're guiding student to work on the multiple stage. Right? It's also can be multiple days. They're able to clearly document the task, right? How they are able to accomplish the requested requests. Okay. Next. So also, teacher can assign. So this is more like this being designed, right? Connect to all the SIS, Clever, or other systems. So they're able to uh, uh, enlarge. Well, yeah, that's the way to enlarge. I think, yeah, see for the full screen. Um, Yeah, yeah, definitely. We will share the slides later, so it's super easy for you to see it. Um, so this is more like a very convenient for a teacher to assign to different sections. So once they def maybe they collectively working with peers, or also maybe working with the school district grade level leader, right? So they are able to define that. After that's done, they are able to send, right, to send to the students. This is how show how they can send to different sections. Uh, okay, I'll go to next.
Yeah.
So here's a part of student how they are working on on this assignment. So what we are trying to do is more. Hopefully, is that they are able to spend more time in the class. Right, in the class time, they're able to complete this work because uh, yeah, so if they go so more like there's also a tendency they are using AI at home, right? But so the design of the project, if that's being more sophisticated in a way that there's no right or wrong answer, so they're showcasing their work, they are also suggest that they're able to use AI. So being designed in a way that within a class or if they take home, if they use AI to help them. But here's more like what we are showing here how they're able to submit, right? So maybe write short paragraph, upload a document. So they'll showcase their work. Okay. Uh, Next, okay. So this is more like the operational side from a teacher, how they manage, track, support, assess. So this is a tool we're using, right? The top the very good model, including like OpenAI 5.2, also a cloud for 4.5, that's Sonnet. So those tools are so good right now for model understanding. Right, they can conquer all the math problem sets very well. And we have done a lot of extensive testing about interdisciplinary, right, submission, right, student submission, how they can give a solid recommendation for against rubric. So this is more like we're showcasing how AI also being employed, right, to give to do the rating, right, for the multi-model if they submit artifacts, right, meaning okay they are working on maybe a documents, right, or maybe a drawing, a picture, or maybe an essay or writing, right? So they're able to AI is able to use the model way to understand student submission and the work against, right? So work corresponding to the rubric being defined here, so that so both academic, right, the standards, and also POG, right, a key portrait
Mm.
of graduate, are able to give a first level of rating and also rationale why. So this will be subject to teacher final approval, right? So that when they see they need to, so sometimes teachers are able to give update, but also they can also calibrate. Yeah, but this is from our observations, more like 80% heavy lifting has been taken care of by the AI. Okay, let's
Okay.
go to, I'll go ahead.
Uh, And
Uh,
well, this I think goes deeper into what you were talking about, Gene, in terms of evaluation and feedback.
mhm.
Um, so
Yeah. So,
it's
mhm.
go ahead.
Yeah, so actually, this is what you are seeing. Also, teacher view. Both student will have access to that. Is that their work artifacts being submitted, right? So they can expand, right? So AI can power give feedback immediately. If they want to go live, they can do that. But also, teacher can after they review, they will show two parts, right? So one is the rating and supporting evidence. So AIs give rate on the standards, right? How based on the like 4 level, right? So exceeding a meeting, but also they are working also on the partial graduate with the competent level, right? Exceeding competent, at the competent. competency based on rubric being given.
Yeah.
Okay. I will
Okay,
go.
so before we get to the Connect Extend Challenge, let me just share with you a model that I've worked with a teacher to go from the curriculum to a performance assessment. So let's see. So here is my home page, and I'm going to go to pick one out. Let's take this seventh grade. Um, and open it up. And here's my unit. So remember, we want to make sure that when we're creating these curriculum embedded performance assessments, one of the key factors that is really about um, validity and reliability is we want to teach what it is we're going to assess. So a performance assessment should not be something that's completely separate from the experience of students. So if this is my unit, I can go into my performance assessment here, and it's reading my previous work. So the standards will come up. And one of the things I greatly appreciate here is that for the performance assessment, I am checking things as I go along. I want to make sure if this is a curriculum embedded performance assessment coming at the end of my unit, then I really want to make sure that I have all my standards for that unit. And because it read the unit, I know that they're there. I'm confirming that. If we go back to what I said earlier, that there are different kinds of performance assessments, so maybe I'm doing this midway through, I might take some of these out and say, okay, what did I do the first week? I'm going to work on this curriculum embedded performance assessment the second week, and then I'm going to finish up my unit. Teachers have that flexibility here. Okay. If I have an idea for the task, I'm going to write it right into my assessment description. And most teachers, because of their experience in the classroom, they do come to this process with ideas or things that they've done before, and they're really looking to fine tune that the assessments or the projects that they've done so that they're integrating and they're bringing to the attention the different attributes of the portrait of a graduate. So with that information, I can now create my assessment. The magic is happening.
Mhm. Yeah, it's reading. Also, actually reading the unit, all right, the count,
Yeah,
and then trying to build different stages. Yeah.
yeah. So I always feel better when it takes a minute or two for that to happen because to me that means thoughtfulness. There's a lot of detail in here. Okay. So my rubric is being built. Okay. So here's some things I'd like to point out to you. My rubric has been built. Um, so since we're on the rubric page, I'll point these out to you first. One of the things that I always look for in a quality rubric is that it is scaffolded and it's written in a way that is describing what students do rather than what's missing. Often when we are looking at rubrics, we'll see that the first two levels of a rubric are written completely in, like, it's not there, student didn't do it, but that doesn't help our struggling learners. So here it's starting with, yeah, I attempted this investigation, but my procedure was incomplete or unclear. So there's always a starting point for the student that there was some attempt to meet that criteria. And now when I moved to the next level, I planned and followed the procedure, but some steps were unclear. I know how I can move from one level to the next, right? So that's one thing that I appreciate about a quality rubric is that when I can see it as a more of a progression rather than you can't do this and these students can. The other is that a curriculum embedded performance assessment comes with tasks. They're separate steps that build towards the whole. And so here you can see how those steps are being identified in the rubric itself. And what this allows students to do is it builds in these formative assessment moments. So after I do my investigation and I submit a piece of evidence, I can get some feedback on that before I go to the next step. Because I don't want to go to the next step of analyzing the data that I collected if I have some misconception or misunderstanding. So the rubric reflects the process that you can see in the unit plan itself. And so let me just go here to show you the unit plan. So here is my unit project in another portion. So I have my unit planner. Now I have my POG portfolio, which is where I'm going to find my projects. So I can view the details. I can see how there are different tasks for the students to collect. It's been assigned to my classroom. I can also view the task itself. Right? It's showing me in each step what it is I need to complete. And what this will allow is that students, when they have their version, they'll be able to see the steps in the process. They'll be able to submit their work and they'll receive feedback as they go along. So it's designed as a 5-step process. And another thing that I appreciate often with some tasks, and some tasks it will take longer to do one step than another. So in my classroom, I could actually have maybe, just as an example, I might say task 1 and task 2, they're really going to take 3 days, where task 3 is going to be 3 and 4 are going to be smaller. So I have that flexibility because when I download all this information and implement, I can implement in that manner. And the way that the students are getting the information is that they can then upload their work as they go through based on whatever timeline I've put out for them. So Jean, while I'm here, is there any other piece that I should be?
Yeah, I think yeah. So currently we are launching this, and then we do see there's I will also probably want to hear from the audience, right? So you know, POG is a big push, right, from the state level, school district level. This is one thing we are showcasing. It's more like towards middle school, high school level. How they are able to showcase practice, right? Practice on the part of graduate traits, attributes, on different subject level, right? Different unit, more like also unit level, right? You can select to choose before they are entering to a big capstone project. They have lots of opportunity to practice, but also we have this is one thing like really towards middle school or even elementary school. So how they are able to practice the skills, not just in a very big summative way, right? In a unit level summative way. This is more like, hey, small formative assessment, but in a very fun environment. Okay, let's go next slide.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is a tool that we actually build like for when we are working with your core curriculum, we're able to read, right, the unit and also read different lesson. So we're able to embed the POG activity. So what we are showing here, you're able to select, for example, innovator, creative innovator, critical thinker, and then what you can do is AI is trying to build uh, the ta little mini task will take probably 5 to 7 minutes in a classroom within a lesson. They're able to practice. So usually really fit for you have a great band, right, for POG or extending to elementary school. So how does it look like? So we actually build those small activity that can across, right? So multi-subject teacher, elementary teacher, they're able to build across. So this will also they're able to assign to students. So we are trying to help teacher to so te students are doing the reflection, right? They're adding the reflection. They're able to see how it's being done. Maybe to go to next slide, we'll show the
Sure.
reflection piece. Yeah, so this is also student after this very important for student to reflect on practice on those skills, right? Innovator, critical thinker, problems, be a great communicator. So what we prompt is that based on the current lesson, right, and then create a small activity, and then towards the end, students are able to submit their reflection. So AI will be doing give some recommendation based on reflection sent to student. But here's more like we are trying to encourage student, right, to do more, right? Also, all subject, right, teacher are able to bring this POG into the classroom, not just to wait towards high school. So our what we learn is that there's so much a push for elementary school, middle school. They all learn how to practice on those skills. So this is a perfect tool for them to track, right? What are the activities? What are the skills? How many encounters has been happened? And we also build I would say a badge, right? A badge and points to encourage students to submit. Okay, let's go next.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here are AI is generating insights. So this will be shared to students as well. And for teacher, if they choose to submit their reflection, those are getting a lot of good big badge or more points, right? But also this help AI has also help. Okay, how give recommendation for the student to encourage them, but also how they did it, right? How they feel strongly about practicing those skills. Okay, so yeah, go next. So
Mhm.
actually, we are creating a dashboard. More like this dashboard is trying to showcase the lesson, what subject, how many those more like evidence, right? It's a portfolio evidence being created. But also it's across the board. They have a leaderboard, right? So even for high school, middle school, high school, if they do the week-long performance, they are more formal, right? They're being counted as a summative assessment. But for this, it's more like, hey, I want to showcase all the how the practice of those key skills and across different subjects, but also they're able to see the progress. Yeah, but mostly we're tracking the frequency, how much they actually worked on. Okay.
Yeah. And I like the evidence piece to that because I think it brings into light, like, here's something I did in class, and then I'm reflecting on how it demonstrates that portrait.
But actually, we are open for feedback, and also if school districts are working on POG because in New York, so 2027, so officially all the school districts are using that as alternative. So there's a lot of different way, right? The capstone project-based learning, right? This is a embedded curriculum embedded. So actually, we are opening for interest form, and if you do have a interest. So we are really want to hear from you more, and also we can meeting your team right in our school district if you have interest. We so Angela will be probably yeah. So be coming, we actually will create a cohort in January to see whether there will be more school districts will have interest to learn more.
Yes, yes. So we invite you to fill out the interest form, and once we get feedback from the group, then we can decide, how we can address the needs that emerge from your interest in to how this connects to what you're doing in your schools and how we can help you further explore um, really making connections between your curriculum, portrait of a graduate, and then your assessment systems.